Scott Motley, you quoted Churchill?
Quoting Churchill, quoting Claude McKay.
McKay, okay.
Claude McKay was from
Yes, I know. And he was from Clarendon. Yes.
James here.
I'm aware. Thank you, Senator Scott Motley. As we move into a new section, Senator Sinclair. Senator Sinclair, would you just light the next? Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Very much. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President,
Just an inquiry. Just an inquiry. That school. You have anybody running over at the stadium this evening? Eh?
Question is with school. Mr. President, I stand in support of the bill before us entitled the Appropriations Bill 2026, was passed in the Lower House last Tuesday. Following the processes required and the sterling presentations, Mr. President, from our Minister of Finance, Honorable Favour Williams, and the Most Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Andrew Michael Holness. Mr. President, public expectations from a national budget presentation revolve around economic stability, improved quality of life, fiscal accountability. And what the citizens want to appreciate, Mr. President, is how the government revenue is raised, because it's secured from their taxes, how it will be used to address financial pressures as well as long-term development. And the budget presentation of this administration, Mr. President, meets the criteria in every respect. Mr. President, the bill was passed in the other place in this context, where Jamaica experienced good things happening by virtue of the actions and decisions made by an administration that appreciates the benefits of fiscal responsibility. Arising from this administration's stewardship of the affairs of Jamaica, we were able to experience a stable rate of exchange, Mr. President, and contrary to what was said by my colleague across the floor, young Senator Tomlinson, where we sought to look through a particular lens. There are independent bodies outside of the jurisdiction of Jamaica that has given us high ratings, and I refer to Standard & Poor, Moody's, and Fitch. So we don't have to pay attention to what is said by those who look through a certain lens. Let us look on what international rating organizations speak about Jamaica. And they do give us high ratings, even on the passage of Melissa, Mr. President. Mr. President, we have experienced the lowest unemployment figures, 3.3%, lowest debt to GDP levels, and over the past 9 years, no new taxes, significant by this administration. Mr. President, this administration has taken the ship of Jamaica through two of the worst natural disasters ever experienced, namely COVID, and that is the worst worldwide pandemic for over a century, and hurricanes Beryl and Melissa. Two back-to-back storms, with the latter being the strongest hurricane ever to impact the region. Mr. President, to be able to produce this Appropriations Bill 2026 without overburdening Jamaicans with massive and oppressive taxes is testimony to the tremendous effort of the team led by our Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Dr. Andrew Michael Holness. The many Jamaicans who have encountered have great appreciation and understanding that the revenue measures at this time, after experiencing so many consecutive years of no new taxes, that the revenue measures were unavoidable. I know in the Republic from where I come, Senator Bernard saw you at the Parliament in Montego Bay on one occasion. But you know that is a diverse crew of persons. Diverse crew. We are in the Republic. And that is our parliament. Diverse. We have people from the P side, the J side, no side, Mr. President. But you know, when you listen to the average man in our parliament, Mr. President, the man who we will describe in legal terms as the man on the Clapham omnibus, Mr. President, they have no issue with the budget that has been presented by this administration. Mr. President, the people of Jamaica recognize that but for Hurricane Beryl and Melissa and the impact they had on the forward momentum of this administration, that we would more probably than not, would have been seeing another year of no new taxes. But as I said, it was unavoidable. So, President, the impact of those storms have, however, concretized in the minds of Jamaicans here and across the diaspora that this administration has ensured, and I will quote the words of our Prime Minister, Jamaica's resilience is not only social and emotional, it is institutional, fiscal, and economic. So, President, the resilience shown is much appreciated by Jamaicans in Western Jamaica, in the parishes most highly affected by Hurricane Melissa. And I speak of St. James, Trelawney, Hanover, Westmoreland, and St. Elizabeth. When we ventured out, Mr. President, on October 29, 2026, there was great concern. The damage coupled with the loss of life was significant. I have not come across anyone who in some way or the other did not feel the wrath of Hurricane Melissa. We all give thanks to God, for as the saying goes, it could have been worse. We say thanks to all the donors, local and international, who responded to assist. We recognize the first responders and agency representatives who went beyond the call of duty, even when they themselves were affected. Mr. President, we, however, have a greater appreciation of the benefits of having an administration which recognizes the importance of building resilience. We appreciate even more the need to have an administration which has discipline, which is courageous, and able to maintain good governance over the many budget cycles from 2016 in the face of harsh but clearly unsound criticism from an opposition which sought to gaslight Jamaicans with fanciful spending. Mr. President, our administration was and continues to be able to respond post-Melissa to build back the lives and restore communities. Things may not happen as fast as we would all like, but the signs are positive, Mr. President. This administration was able to provide a loan from its own account of US $150 million, which assisted greatly in the restoration of electricity. Mr. President, when we spoke to JPS representatives in our EOC, they told us that their infrastructure in Western Jamaica, especially transmission lines that move power from St. James across the hills into other parishes, was literally destroyed. So, President, this loan that was provided has given us a report that up to 99% of electricity has now been restored across Western Jamaica. Mr. President, communities which suffered major infrastructure damage, the restoration process has started. Repairs to many of our roads, Mr. President, have started and are continuing. The Ministry of Labour and Social Security was able to distribute hundreds of thousands of care packages. And when you go back to the COVID era, where support had to be given through the various care programs, it signifies the importance of the resilience that we were able to build and be able to respond to Jamaicans who needed assistance at those critical junctures in their lives. And right now, as we have experienced, Melissa. Mr. President, the Ministry of Labour and Social Security has currently allocated to thousands of Jamaicans over $8 billion to needy Jamaicans to repair their homes. And yes, while there are teething pains, corrective measures are being implemented to ease the burden on those people. This signifies, Mr. President, however, a need to have implemented, and we are building out the infrastructure for that, for the national identification system to be fully implemented. That will make distribution of social needs much easier without having to go through manual verifications as is presently being done, to ensure that there's transparency and accountability in the program. So I want to encourage at this time all Jamaicans to ensure that they are on board with the national identification system. Mr. President, a critical question that comes up at this time, though, and I found it a bit disingenuous and disheartening on the part of the opposition. When the government set up a system to solicit from internationally donations that will assist Jamaicans, the opposition set up their own system. They put out an advertisement. In fact, they sought to divide persons in making their contributions. But the question has been asked, where is the money that was raised by the opposition? That is the question that needs to be answered by them. Mr. President, over a month ago, the leader of the opposition said that he would present an account to the nation. Well, we have gone several weeks and we don't hear no more communication about that accountability that was promised by the leader of the opposition. And if they want us to trust them, even as an opposition, then they must do what they have committed to. And that cannot be a difficult task, Mr. President. That cannot be a difficult task. Mr. President, the National Housing Trust has responded post-Melissa in a significant way. They have moratoriums on loans, and they have provided grants to persons to do roof repairs. Grants, not loans, Mr. President, but grants. While it's doing so, they continue to provide loans to qualified Jamaicans to carry through, and they also presently are undertaking returns of contributions that persons are entitled to. So when persons come here and go in the public space and seek to say that the taking or drawdown of $11 billion in support of the budget is impacting what the NHT does, that obviously is not true. But then the persons who raise that must ask themselves, Mr. President, what happened when they did what they did without any money? The monies that were taken from the NHT to bail out someone in respect to outer money. And let me say this, that particular property is still burdening the public coffers. It is, because guess what? It is not generating revenue, but there is also a cost in providing security. So, Mr. President, this is what one writer said in relation to outer money. And I quote, "No one could have expected an entity so notably tasked would have found itself so mired in controversy." And I can take the controversy and make it into a slander. Right, Mr. President? So, persons are there, you're criticizing. But if the monies were not taken, Senator Duncan, then what would happen to the Jamaicans? Would we burden them with more taxes? Would we be burdening the Jamaican people with more taxes? So, Mr. President, the criticism that we hear coming from across the floor, seeking to gaslight, I am saying and submitting in this chamber that it is not correct nor true. Mr. President, with my Western Jamaica bias, I and many others found excitement and hope in the presentation of our Prime Minister's commitment to resurgence and transformation. In the wake of Melissa, we must build for the future. There's a popular saying that one should never make a crisis go to waste. The Honorable Prime Minister captured it well when he said, and I quote, "The suffering of our Western parishes will not be a footnote in our national story. It will be the catalyst for our next great chapter." And that takes me into NARA, Mr. President. The creation of the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority will soon be a reality. The bill for its creation has been tabled by the Prime Minister. And again, I heard Senator Tomlinson criticizing. And I asked myself, has he even read the bill? Has he even read the bill to be making some of the comments that he made this morning? And he lifted up a prop. And I asked the question. He said, the big yellow book, the big yellow book, pristine, compared to the one that is in the possession of Senator Morgan that have dog ears. Because what it is saying to me is that Senator Morgan, Mr. President, has gone through the big yellow book. Obviously, Senator Thompson did not go through that book. And the presentation from our colleague, Senator Tomlinson. Yes, Senator Tomlinson. But the presentation from our Minister of Education has put his comments totally to rest, because she has outlined what is being done in this present budget in the area of education. So, President, the NARA is a critical step that will be taken in the building and positive transformation of many of our urban spaces in the West and other areas in Jamaica. Through the function of NARA, it is expected that there will be greater coordination, speed, efficiency, improved standards in major development projects, which will improve the quality of life of Jamaicans, build and transform communities, enhance productivity, and accelerate national development. You come back. All right. I have more for you. Don't worry yourself. Mr. President, specific to Western Jamaica parishes, it is expected that the NARA will play a significant role in the build-out of the new and improved Black River, the much-needed Hopewell, Sandy Bay, and Lucy bypass, the airport in Negril, the transformation of the Lucy Harbour, the revitalization of Montego Bay development. And Mr. President, in this building and transformation of the space in Western Jamaica, I highlight those. There are several others across Jamaica. So, President, this administration recognizes the cumbersome nature of our procurement and other development requirements. We have proven ourselves bold enough to take action where necessary to ease that burden. Our administration knows that development can go a far way in improving Jamaica's competitiveness, increase economic opportunities, resulting in increased and sustained revenues. The opposition, on the other hand, obviously, Mr. President, based on the comments that we have heard this morning, they do not understand that that is a critical part of ensuring we fast-track needy development. Mr. President, I remind the Senate that it was this Andrew Holness administration that passed legislation making the Montego Bay Perimeter Road a national project. And I was in the Senate, Senator Bernard, you knew, but the comments that came from across here, because that legislation sought to ease the procurement process. And you, as a resident in St. James, you have seen the development taking place right before your eyes with a speed in massive infrastructure that is going to impact St. James significantly. And I will get through, don't worry. And other areas in Western Jamaica in a real way. You have seen it. They have started paving the road. We soon get to opening one more highway that will open great opportunities for development. And when it was that things were taking place in Kingston, Mr. President, in respect to Constant Spring Road, if you remember the comments that came from the opposition, and down by Portia Simpson Square, where they were improving Hagley Park Road activities. Mr. President, the comments that came from opposition at that time was that you're going to lock down Kingston. Don't do it. Ease off of the development process. But this administration was able to do those projects. And look at us now, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, as I said, the legislation that we're bringing in respect to the NARA will ease some of the challenges that we have. Mr. President, Opposition Senator again, Cleveland Tomlinson, where it's about timelines, I respond to him in this way. Don't worry yourself, man. And you made some comments about the youth. If you reflect back on the 1970s, when your great conceptualizer said to Jamaicans, take one of the 5 flights a day and leave Jamaica. It's always the same commentary he comes in, because what I want to ask him, what did Senator Tomlinson say to those youths in encouraging them to improve themselves, take the advantage of what was being offered through our Ministry of Education? Now we are hearing that you can go up to heart. What you call it? Level 5? Level 5, right? Right now it's level 4. But we're offering up to level 5 right now, Mr. President. For free. So we have a way of upskilling our people, Mr. President. We don't want for them to be taking one of the 5 flights per day to take away. But listen to this. What you did was to create a brain drain in Jamaica that we're struggling to recover from. That is what you offer to the Jamaican people. The opposition offered that. The great conceptualizer that they seek to praise, Michael Manley, offered Jamaicans to take flight to go foreign, improve foreign, Mr. President. And then those are the people that we're asking to contribute to Jamaica. Mr. President, but in respect to the timeline issue, the bill has been tabled. So that step has been taken. And unless you take the first step, you will never complete the journey. So we have taken the first step. So, President, we are in the process of doing the interview for NARA's Chief Executive Officer, Mr. President. At this far advanced, 5 persons have already been shortlisted and are being evaluated. Mr. President, the chairman of a credible independent oversight committee, Professor Peter Blair Henry, has been identified. I know what I found confusing on their side, Mr. President, today is that one senator is supporting it and one senator is bashing the person who has been appointed. It look like you're confused on that side. In respect, you don't understand what is happening, man. Mr. President, this administration, unlike others, we act. We don't just talk. The Montego Bay Perimeter Road, which I spoke about, languished through 18 years of PNP administration, Mr. President. We got it done because we are an action administration. Mr. President, Harmony Park in Montego Bay, that wonderful park, languished through the PNP administration. We got it done, Mr. President. $1.3 million spent in doing the Harmony Beach Park. Mr. President, I highlight briefly these 2 things coming from our administration. We may be useful. So guess what? You, the people of Jamaica, can trust this administration to act and to act in their benefit and with your interests at heart. And in respect to this development, again, in the affected parishes, announcement made in the budget, transfer tax has been reduced by 50% across the affected parishes. Very important. And when we reflect on a PNP administration, when transfer tax was 5%, Scott Motley, Senator, and we reduced it under Alisha to 4%, PNP increased it to 5%, and guess what happened? Under Nigel Clark as Minister of Finance, we reduced transfer tax to 2%. Our administration is a tax reduction type of administration. When we compare what you did with $60 billion in new taxes in 3 or 4 years, you understand that you are a taxation government. Mr. President, in recent times, 2 persons who sit in their house spoke about increasing taxes just before the election. That is what they're about. Yes, 2 persons over there spoke about increasing tax. We talk about reducing the burden of taxation on people. And we will look at the efficiency in the collection of what is here. And that is why we gave you 9 years of no new taxes. Mr. President, it was spoken about. The meeting yesterday to bring in the small and medium-sized businesses is something that is significant, allowing the persons to be able to participate in what is to come. That is how we take care of our people and improve business in Jamaica. Mr. President, I want to touch quickly on beach access in the last few minutes that I have. Alan, there's a hypocrisy on the part of the PNP in relation to beach access. A big hypocrisy. Mr. President, if you look on the policy that has been tabled by the Honorable Prime Minister, look on the first goal, which is stated on page 35. And I want the public to understand, the Beach Control Act is an act that was implemented by a PNP government. The amendment that they made to the Beach Control Act in 1973 was done under a PNP government. This administration, in tabling this policy and opening the discussion for greater beach access, Mr. President, that they are able to now jump on. The goal, number 1, the goals of the beach access and management policy are this: establishment of effective institutional arrangements for the regulation and management of baby beach. Nothing is wrong with that. But 2, increase physical access to the use and use of the foreshore, the floor of the sea, and the water column above it by all stakeholders. Not just a few, all stakeholders. But here the hypocrisy that I see coming from the PNP. Mr. President, there's an advertisement which is out in the public, where 2 persons were in their lower house on the opposition bench doing a development. And part of the advertisement in that is that you will have access to a private beach. Not public access, The people who purchase the multi-million-dollar property that they are selling will have access to a private beach. All right. Mr. President, in St. James, Rosal Beach, Damali Beach, Cornwall Beach was removed, not allowing public access by a PNP administration. And in respect to Cornwall Beach, the hypocrisy of it is that Cornwall Beach was given to the people of St. James by Michael Manley and taken away under Portia Simpson Miller and the attorney who presided over it. The attorney's firm that presided over it is that of the leader of the opposition, Mr. President. Hypocrisy on the part of the PNP. And guess what? One up. Take it easy. My time running out. Mr. President, one of the members on that side, within their family, of which they are gaining a benefit from it, Mr. President, owns a beach property, but the gate to that property is closed. They operate it for commercial purpose, but the gate is closed. There is no public access to the foreshore to their property. If they want to get up and stand up and talk who it is, then they have the opportunity to do so. Mr. President, this party, this administration respects beach access. We will have more discussion on that on another time, Mr. President. I thank you very much. I support appropriation.